Navigating Identities, Exploring Women's Sexuality and Gender Studies. Description: Embark on a transformative journey through the diverse landscapes of women's sexuality and gender studies with our comprehensive course, Navigating Identities. Delve into the intricate intersections of gender, sexuality, race, class, and more as we navigate historical narratives, contemporary issues, and future directions in the pursuit of social justice and equity. From ancient civilizations to digital frontiers, our course offers a multidimensional exploration of theory, activism, and allyship. Join us as we critically examine power structures, challenge societal norms, and cultivate inclusive communities where every voice is valued and every identity celebrated. Whether you're a student, educator, activist, or lifelong learner, Navigating Identities provides the tools, insights, and inspiration to navigate the complexities of gender and identity in the 21st century. Table of Contents. Module 1, Introduction to Women's Sexuality and Gender Studies. Lesson 1, Understanding the Intersections. Lesson 2, Theoretical Frameworks. Lesson 3, Methodologies in Women's Sexuality and Gender Studies. Module 2, Historical Perspectives. Lesson 1, Ancient Civilizations and Gender Roles. Lesson 2, Medieval Period and Gender Dynamics. Lesson 3, Renaissance and Enlightenment Movements. Module 3, Contemporary Issues in Women's Sexuality and Gender Studies. Lesson 1, Gender Inequality in the Workplace. Lesson 2, Reproductive Rights and Health. Lesson 3, LGBTQ+ Rights and Advocacy. Module 4, Global Perspectives on Women's Sexuality and Gender Studies. Lesson 1, Cultural Relativism and Diversity. Lesson 2, Colonialism and Post-Colonial Feminism. Lesson 3, Transnational Feminism and Activism. Module 5, Future Directions in Women's Sexuality and Gender Studies. Lesson 1, Emerging Trends in Gender Research. Lesson 2, Gender, Technology, and Artificial Intelligence. Lesson 3, Activism and Allyship in the 21st Century. Module 1, Introduction to Women's Sexuality and Gender Studies. Lesson 1, Understanding the Intersections. Define women's studies, sexuality studies, and gender studies. Women's studies, an interdisciplinary field focusing on the experiences, contributions, and struggles of women. Sexuality studies explores various aspects of human sexuality, including identity, behavior, and societal norms. Gender studies examines socially constructed roles, behaviors, and identities attributed to individuals based on their gender. Explain the significance of intersectionality. Intersectionality considers how various social identities intersect and influence each other, such as race, class, sexuality, and gender. Discuss the historical context. Trace the origins of women's sexuality and gender studies back to the feminist movement and the fight for gender equality. Highlight key milestones and events that shaped the development of these fields, such as the Seneca Falls Convention and the Stonewall Riots. Lesson 2, Theoretical Frameworks. Introduce feminist theory. Define feminism as the advocacy for social, political, and economic equality between genders. Explore different waves of feminism, including first wave, second wave, and intersectional feminism. Discuss queer theory. Define queer theory as an interdisciplinary approach to understanding sexuality and gender identity beyond normative categories. Explain the importance of challenging heteronormativity and binaries in queer theory. Overview of critical gender theory. Define critical gender theory as a framework that critiques power dynamics and social constructions related to gender. Discuss key concepts such as patriarchy, sexism, and gender performativity. Lesson 3: Methodologies in Women's Sexuality and Gender Studies. Explain qualitative research methods. Define qualitative research as an approach focused on understanding human behavior through observation and interpretation. Discuss methods such as interviews, ethnography, and content analysis commonly used in women's sexuality and gender studies research. Introduce quantitative research methods. Define quantitative research as an approach focused on numerical data and statistical analysis. Discuss survey research and experimental designs within the context of women's sexuality and gender studies. Assignment: reflective essay. Students will write a reflective essay discussing their understanding of the intersections between gender, sexuality, and other social identities, as well as the importance of theoretical frameworks in women's sexuality and gender studies. Next module, Module 2, Historical Perspectives. Module 2, Historical Perspectives. Lesson 1, Ancient Civilizations and Gender Roles. Explore gender roles in ancient civilizations. Discuss the roles of women in Mesopotamia, Egypt, Greece, and Rome, examining their social, economic, and political status. Analyze the impact of religion, law, and cultural norms on gender roles and expectations. Highlight notable figures. Introduce influential women such as Hatshepsut, Cleopatra, Sappho, and Hypatia, emphasizing their contributions and challenges within patriarchal societies. Lesson 2, Medieval Period and Gender Dynamics. Examine gender dynamics during the medieval period. Discuss the roles of women in feudal societies, including noble women, peasants, and religious figures. Analyze the influence of chivalry, feudalism, and Christianity on gender norms and expectations. Explore sexuality and gender nonconformity. Discuss the perception of sexuality and gender nonconformity in medieval literature, art, and religious texts. Highlight the experiences of individuals who defied traditional gender roles, such as Joan of Arc and same-sex couples. Lesson 3, Renaissance and Enlightenment movements. Trace changes in gender roles during the Renaissance and Enlightenment. Discuss the emergence of humanism and its impact on attitudes towards women's education, marriage, and individualism. Analyze the role of women in scientific and artistic advancements, despite limited opportunities for formal education and recognition. Examine Enlightenment ideals of equality. Discuss the influence of Enlightenment thinkers such as Mary Wollstonecraft and John Stuart Mill on advocating for women's rights and gender equality. Explore the contradictions between Enlightenment ideals and the persistence of gender inequalities in society. Assignment: research project. Students will choose a specific historical period or civilization and conduct research on the gender roles, struggles, and contributions of women and marginalized groups within that context. They will present their findings in a multimedia presentation or written report. Next module, Module 3, Contemporary Issues in Women's Sexuality and Gender Studies. Module 3, Contemporary Issues in Women's Sexuality and Gender Studies. Lesson 1, Gender Inequality in the Workplace. Define gender inequality. Gender inequality refers to disparities in opportunities, treatment, and outcomes between individuals based on their gender. Discuss wage gap. Define the gender wage gap as the difference in earnings between men and women performing similar work. Explore factors contributing to the wage gap, such as occupational segregation, discrimination, and caregiving responsibilities. Analyze glass ceiling and glass cliff. Define the glass ceiling as invisible barriers preventing women from advancing to leadership positions. Discuss the concept of the glass cliff, where women are more likely to be appointed to leadership roles during times of crisis or organizational turmoil. Lesson 2: Reproductive Rights and Health. Define reproductive rights. Reproductive rights encompass the right to make decisions regarding reproduction free from coercion, discrimination, and violence. Discuss abortion rights. Explore the history of abortion laws and regulations globally, highlighting the impact on women's health and autonomy. Analyze debates surrounding reproductive rights, including access to abortion services, contraception, and comprehensive sexual education. Address maternal health disparities. Discuss disparities in maternal health care access, outcomes, and experiences based on race, socioeconomic status, and geography. Explore initiatives aimed at improving maternal health equity, such as community-based programs and policy advocacy. Lesson 3: LGBTQ+ Rights and Advocacy. Define LGBTQ+ rights. LGBTQ and rights advocate for the equal treatment and protection of individuals regardless of their sexual orientation, gender identity, or expression. Discuss marriage equality. Trace the history of marriage equality movements worldwide, including landmark legal cases and legislative reforms. Analyze the impact of marriage equality on LGBTQ+ individuals' rights, recognition, and societal acceptance. Address transgender rights. Explore challenges faced by transgender individuals, including discrimination, violence, and barriers to healthcare. Discuss advocacy efforts and policies aimed at protecting transgender rights, such as anti-discrimination laws and gender-affirming healthcare initiatives. Assignment: Policy analysis. Students will choose a contemporary issue related to gender, sexuality, or women's rights and conduct a policy analysis, evaluating existing policies, advocacy efforts, and potential solutions. They will present their findings in a policy brief or presentation. Next module, Module 4, Global Perspectives on Women's Sexuality and Gender Studies. Module 4, Global Perspectives on Women's Sexuality and Gender Studies. Lesson 1, Cultural Relativism and Diversity. Define cultural relativism. Cultural relativism is the principle that an individual's beliefs, values, and practices should be understood within the context of their own culture, rather than judged against the standards of another culture. Explore cultural diversity. Discuss how cultural norms and traditions shape gender roles, sexuality, and identity across different societies and communities. Analyze case studies illustrating the diversity of gender expressions, sexual practices, and family structures worldwide. Critically examine ethnocentrism. Define ethnocentrism as the tendency to evaluate other cultures according to the standards of one's own culture. Discuss the implications of ethnocentrism in understanding and addressing global issues related to women's rights, sexuality, and gender equality. Lesson 2, Colonialism and Post-Colonial Feminism. Define colonialism. Colonialism refers to the domination and exploitation of one country or culture by another, often resulting in social, economic, and political inequalities. Discuss the impact of colonialism on gender relations. Analyze how colonial policies and ideologies enforced patriarchal norms, gender binaries, and sexual hierarchies in colonized societies. Explore resistance movements and feminist activism within colonial and post-colonial contexts, highlighting challenges and achievements. Introduce post-colonial feminism. Define post-colonial feminism as a framework that examines the intersection of gender, race, class, and colonialism in understanding power dynamics and oppression. Discuss key concepts such as intersectionality, subaltern voices, and cultural imperialism within post-colonial feminist theory. Lesson 3: Transnational Feminism and Activism. Define transnational feminism. Transnational feminism emphasizes solidarity and collaboration across borders to address intersecting forms of oppression and inequality. Discuss global feminist movements. Explore grassroots organizations, advocacy networks, and social media campaigns mobilizing for women's rights, LGBTQ and rights, and gender justice worldwide. Highlight the role of transnational feminist activism in challenging structures of power, promoting social change, and advancing human rights agendas. Assignment: Case study analysis. Students will choose a global issue related to women's rights, sexuality, or gender equality and conduct a case study analysis, examining its historical context, cultural dimensions, and implications for social justice. They will present their findings in a written report or multimedia presentation. Next module, Module 5, Future Directions in Women's Sexuality and Gender Studies. Module 5, Future Directions in Women's Sexuality and Gender Studies. Lesson 1, Emerging Trends in Gender Research. Discuss interdisciplinary approaches. Explore the integration of women's sexuality and gender studies with other fields such as science, technology, engineering, mathematics, STEM, environmental studies, and global health. Analyze the potential for interdisciplinary research to address complex social issues and promote innovative solutions. Highlight digital feminism. Define digital feminism as activism and advocacy for gender equality using digital technologies, social media platforms, and online communities. Discuss the opportunities and challenges of digital feminism in amplifying marginalized voices, mobilizing collective action, and combating online harassment and misogyny. Explore ecofeminism. Define ecofeminism as a theoretical framework that examines the intersections between gender, ecology, and environmental justice. Discuss ecofeminist critiques of capitalism, globalization, and unsustainable development practices, as well as ecofeminist approaches to sustainability, climate justice, and eco-friendly lifestyles. Lesson 2, Gender, Technology, and Artificial Intelligence. Discuss gender biases in technology. Analyze the ways in which technology reflects and perpetuates gender stereotypes, biases, and inequalities, particularly in areas such as artificial intelligence, AI, algorithmic decision-making, and digital surveillance. Explore case studies and examples highlighting the impacts of gender biases in technology on diverse communities. Introduce feminist approaches to technology. Discuss feminist critiques of technology and calls for inclusive design, ethical algorithms, and feminist data practices. Explore initiatives promoting diversity and inclusion in technology fields, such as Girls Who Code, Women in AI, and Tech Women. Lesson 3, Activism and Allyship in the 21st Century. Define allyship. Allyship refers to the practice of individuals with privilege and power advocating for and supporting marginalized groups in their struggle for equality and justice. Discuss intersectional activism. Explore the importance of intersectionality in activism, recognizing the interconnectedness of gender, race, class, sexuality, ability, and other social identities. Highlight examples of intersectional activism addressing multiple forms of oppression and advocating for inclusive policies and practices. Promote sustainable activism. Discuss strategies for sustaining activism and preventing burnout, such as self-care practices, community support networks, and collective action. Encourage ongoing engagement in activism and allyship through education, dialogue, and solidarity-building efforts. Assignment. Action plan. Students will develop an action plan outlining strategies for advancing gender equality, LGBTQ and rights, or women's empowerment in their local communities or professional fields. They will identify goals, stakeholders, resources, and evaluation methods to measure the impact of their efforts. Conclusion. Reflective synthesis. In the final session, students will participate in a reflective synthesis discussion, sharing insights, experiences, and lessons learned throughout the course. They will reflect on their personal growth, academic inquiries, and aspirations for future engagement in women's, sexuality, and gender studies. End of course.